Okay, so this is in regards to the hidden hand dialogue. A lot of people have gone online, they've read that on Above Top Secret, and they've seen an individual that's presented themselves as being part of what has historically been known as Illuminati. And Illuminati just means illumination, spiritual or intellectual. From the Above Top Secret blog, you can clearly see that the intelligence behind whoever wrote it is coming from a perspective of the universe being constructed from a grand intelligence. That intelligence guides everything, like a flower has intelligence behind it. To a molecular level, you can see spirals in nature, and you can see it in plants, animals, spiral type designs going all the way to the Milky Way, the spiral coming out of the center of the galaxy. So you can see through pattern there is a grand architect that is there throughout the whole cosmos, and that's basically what's being stated in the hidden hand dialogue. The hidden hand is speaking of ancient bloodlines that are not in the public sector, coming from extraterrestrials, right? The creation of humans, and their names are not present. We can look to groups like, you can say, like, look, the British royalty or this group or that group. But what the hidden hand is stating is anything you can see, any type of person, any type of power structure you can see, is not the Illuminati. The Illuminati is not seen at all. It's not spoken of. I know in public culture you can see rappers like hold up the pyramid structure with their hands and stuff and say Illuminati stuff. But what the hidden hand is saying is none of this stuff is in the public sector. That these individuals are guiding the world in many different ways, and you're not meant to see them. So through divination, through intuitive ability, I've been looking into this. Now, I know from my own personal research of the civilizations around the world that ancient extraterrestrials did visit in the great past, and they took a species that was primal, introduced their genes to it, and through long periods of time created modern humans for mining purposes, different sorts of things. But they brought humans into the cities. They created humans and then brought humans into civilization and taught humans the arts. So the gods were already here doing their own thing, building their cities and all that. When I say gods, I'm talking about extraterrestrials. Okay, so how does an individual who is in an ancient ET bloodline, non-human, this is a non-human. This is a non-human from an 100% non-human from an ancient ET bloodline, but can walk the streets and blend in if need be, because we look like them, because we're coming from their DNA. So they don't look like us. We look like them, or some of us do. Some of us, people have different sorts of appearances. Asian people, black people, white people. People have different sorts of appearances. So one of these individuals could walk into the Kremlin and out-Trump the whole Kremlin. Nobody in Russia could do anything. They literally can out-Trump the whole Kremlin, the whole outfit, based on their knowledge of the foundations of civilization and the principles of it, based on their lineage, their DNA, their blood, their protocol, and what they're here for, guiding the planet. They have to be able to do that. They have to be able to do that. Okay, so I went into some intuitive ability within my own soul group to see how this is being done. I know within seventh density, I have soul group. Everybody on the planet comes from a soul group. There's 144,000 soul groups for humanity. And you see that within the Bible, the biblical instruction. You talk about the 144,000, all that stuff. Those are soul groups. So within an individual soul group, they themselves will have several incarnations as extraterrestrial beings, perhaps Illuminati beings. You'll have incarnations as animals. You'll have all kinds of incarnations. And all incarnations coexist now because time is an illusion. The past and the future both coexist right now. So all your incarnations, past and future, exist right now. So, you can look through vibration. You can get with your soul collective, and if you can't find an incarnation, which you had a life as such, within your soul group, an individual will have that incarnation. Therefore, you can extract that information on the basis that you need it. It will be given to you as you need it for what you're looking into. Now, within the DNA structure of humans, the ET blood is still there. The extraterrestrials who were here before humans, who are creating cities, not just on Earth, but across, the galaxy. Again, there's 7 different extraterrestrial groups who came down here and over periods of time genetically created humans. Out of those 7 different groups, there's 13 different DNA strands. Some of them were hybrids. Some of them weren't pure one line. Some of them had a couple lines with, they were a mixture. Okay, so again, a human being has these lines within them. So when you look at something like ancient Atlantis or ancient Lemuria, or you look at symbolism, you say, Illuminati symbolism, ancient ETs, you're looking at your own heritage. So that's number one. That's number one that people... So again, okay. Now last night, oftentimes I like to try to get an astral projection. But last night, I worked on some channeling. And I was able to figure out a little bit about how the relationship between what people call Illuminati extends from the spiritual realm to the earth. It was introduced to me as a ladder. And in the spiritual world, okay, let me present it like this first. The physical world is a reflection of the spiritual world. Everything physical is still spiritual, but it's material matter, right? So if something big is going to happen on Earth or something at all, it starts in the spiritual world first. So the spirits know what's going on before it manifests in the physical world. So if there's going to be a war, say in a month from now, and we don't know what's going to happen, but say in some small third world country it's going to go down, the spiritual world's going to know about this way before it happens, because they're responsible for incarnations. They're responsible for the soul collective. They have to know who's going to leave and go back into the spiritual world, the new people coming in. There's spirits in the spiritual world responsible for watching this and guiding this. Spiritual guys and whatnot, So it was introduced to me as a ladder. So the individuals that people call Illuminati's ancient bloodlines, it's not so much that these individuals make wars happen and make these sorts of things happen, but certain instructions have to be passed down to them for the maintenance of the planet. Their intelligence is a lot higher than humans. So there's things in the spiritual world that are requested. The overall spiritual world requests certain things for humanity, certain experiences humanity has to go through. Humanity has to have a certain level of experiences within 1 century. So there could be 5 big experiences that humanity has to have in 1 century. And out of those 5 experiences, there may be smaller experiences under those. And so the spirits pass this information through. And one of the things I learned was the way it's presented. It's like okay, the spirits. One spirit will give it to another spirit, and then it'll through mediumship, channeling, actually individuals walking in. There will be walk-ins. People who are not physically on Earth will then walk in and look physical and meet with people and talk to people, and then go back into the spiritual world. I mean, that's going on. And they will give instructions on things that have to be done through things known as, they call them keys. And it's sacred geometry and other types of languages written in certain ways that only the ET bloodlines know how to decipher. You can't get there through somebody born as a human in the public sector. You can't get to that from this. There's no way you can make it. You have to be specifically born in the ancient ET bloodline and raised by them and taught firsthand how to decipher this information. And it's an ET language. So the different Illuminati bloodlines, they all know this. And humans cannot have it. They are not supposed to show this to humans or give this to humans at all. It's strictly for them. And it's strictly on blood. You have to be a certain level of ET. You have to be, 100 all the way down to then it goes down from there to 80% ET. And 70% ET. It goes on. So the different types of things that have to happen get presented through this information, and then the people who then the group tables who get told how to make it happen, a lot of times they come up with the idea about how they're going to do it. So they'll be told, look, you got to move this population of people from this region of the world over to this region of the world. We need you to break up this region of the world and move these people over. Nobody said there had to be a war to do it. Nobody said that there had to be a famine to do it. But those are the easiest ways to make those instructions happen. Those are the easiest ways to make those instructions happen, and that's how it works. But then there's rewards. Money can be made off the situation. There's natural resources in the earth that people need. When a country needs resources, they're like, we can't assume we're going to have it in 15 years. We got to know for a fact we're going to have it. We got a lot of cars we have to run. So the rewards of the way in which the accomplishment of the instruction is carried out is dependent upon the group. But that has nothing to do with the 100% ET bloodlines. They just know they have to get certain instructions done coming from the spiritual world, and they know how humans are. They know how mortal man is. So they can't stop man from being greedy, and they can't stop man from being warlike, but they still have to maintenance the earth and do certain things. So they use the natural attributes that are within humans that are nefarious to keep the ball. That's how it was explained to me through the channeling ability. And I was introduced to a being that is in the spiritual world, but has access to walk into the physical world when need be. So these entities in the spiritual world that you say are the grand spirits that channel information to the Illuminati, they can walk into Atlantis, they can walk into Egypt, they can walk into our time right now, straight from the spiritual world, and do the different time. This gets into parallel realities, multiple universes, those types of things. But then there are ET bloodlines that are full ET that are currently on Earth with humans as well too, though. That's going on too. So there are beings, but they live, very separate, and the way they communicate messages to each other is very different. If, what something means for us is completely different for what it means for them. But Earth is looked upon as being a school from the spiritual world. So if somebody comes to Earth and they're going through rough times, it's not looked at as, from the spiritual standpoint, it's not looked on as the individual is lower, as just a school where information has to be, there's certain things people have to learn. So now let me go back to what I was saying. See, the ET languages, when you look at like ancient Sumerian and you look at those types of languages, you got to think, how are the pyramids built? how were the Atlantean pyramids built? How were all these pyramids, like the pyramids under Japan that are under the ocean? These pyramids are thousands and thousands of years old. How are they built? They weren't built on the language of like the hieroglyphics. You can't build pyramids with hieroglyphics. Like in Egypt, like the Mayan illustrations, you couldn't build those with the illustrations that those people had. Like you couldn't build. They didn't build the pyramids in Japan with Japanese characters and stuff like that. The languages that were used to build all these pyramids and do all these things around the world, that's the same language that these ET bloodlines go through. That's their mathematics, that's their geometry, that's all their sacred stuff. Humans used to have more of it at one time, but they don't have much of it anymore. I've always said, I know how they built those pyramids in Egypt. They used an ability with the ether. They used natural oils and chemicals, and they ignited them, and they were able to use the electricity and the ether around us, which is basically hyperspace, to move big, huge blocks. And that's the technology that these ancient ET bloodlines have. Like matter of fact, the story of the lizard people in Los Angeles back in the 1930s, that same story talks about a technology that the lizard people would have used to go into the earth and create their caverns and stuff. Like an oil-like substance. They didn't use drilling and all that stuff. They used natural types of ingredients to do all the work for them. The lizard people have a similar type of connection with the spiritual world. Their hierarchy is in the astral realm as well, just like anybody else's. But they get their instructions straight from the astral realm, straight from the spiritual world. This gets more into like what I was talking about on a different video, channeling the Illuminati, talking about the ancient reptilians and all this stuff. But see, Illuminati doesn't mean a specific look anyway. An entity could be a reptilian being or whatever. It just means spiritual and intellectual enlightenment. But there's a culture that comes with it, though. There's a culture that comes with it. When you talk about the building of civilizations and how to create, languages and all that stuff, it's a culture. These people created the languages across the earth, and the religions and the civilizations and all that. But they're not on the planet. They're not walking around on the planet, though. Not in the way that humans are. They're not in the public's eye. They're not in the public sector.